I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Since you've gone and left me, there's been so little beauty, but I know I saw it clearly through your eyes. Now the world outside is such a cold and bitter place. Here inside I have new things that will console. And when I try to hear your voice above the storms of life, then I remember that I was told. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I think of the things that made me feel so wonderful when I was young. I think of the things that made me laugh, made me dance, made me sing. I think of the things that made me grow into a being full of pride. Think on these things, for they are true. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I thought that you were gone, but now I know you're with me. You are the voice that whispers all I need to hear. I know a please, a thank you, and a smile would take me far. I know that I am you and you are me and we are one. I know that who I am is numbered in each grain of sand. I know that I've been blessed again and again and again and again. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we care away by the light of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, and the great winds urging me on. Breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Doom, 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 doom.
Good morning.
Doom, doom.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's get all together, take a seat. It is great to see you all here today. Let us greet each other in person and in the chat. Hello, welcome. Good morning.
It's a beautiful fall day at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Congregation, a community where love works. I'm Abhi Janamanchi. My pronouns are he and him. And today I'm wearing, what am I wearing? Burgundy vest and a salmon-colored shirt and black pants. And I am a middle-aged Indian male, cisgender in my 50s, and I welcome you to our community as we gather this morning for worship. We gather as Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Congregation as we have gathered for over 72 years on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway people, and on the land on which enslaved African people and their descendants labored and lived without choice or reward. We're mindful of the rich culture, history, and spirituality of the indigenous peoples who inhabited and cared for this land for generations. We affirm the need to share that history of the rightful past, present, and future inhabitants of this land, while building a more just and welcoming future for all. At Cedar Lane, whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your beliefs, gender identity, sexual orientation, documentation status, and disability, and wherever you're joining us from, in person or at home, you are welcome here. We're so glad you're here today, taking a chance and taking a risk to join us for worship. I extend a warm welcome to our newcomers, our guests this morning, and encourage you to join us after the service. Today we have a very special day, so we're going to be having lunch instead of our usual coffee, tea, and delicious scones that we have now become quite accustomed to. So we hope you will join us for that and for some fellowship to get to know each other and get to know more about Cedar Lane and Unitarian Universalism. We invite you to fill out the newcomer form that is being linked in the chat or return the forms to one of our greeters. And at this time, let us give our guests a warm Cedar Lane welcome. And if you feel comfortable, please raise your hand so we may recognize you with a small token of our appreciation. Thank you. If you would like to join this religious community, please reach out to my colleague, Reverend Ali Casey Bell. And our weekly e-newsletter is a great way to stay updated about all the wonderful and exciting happenings at Cedar Lane. You can sign up through the link on our website's homepage, cedarlane.org. Our pastoral visitors are an extension of our ministry team. Barbara Tomar is our pastoral visitor today. She's present here in person, available to support you. We also have pastoral visitors online. Thank you, Barbara, for your ministry. And now let us center ourselves, inviting our mind, body, and spirit into this space, made sacred by our presence and the presence of the holy, known by many names and beyond all naming.
Creator, we give thanks for the knowledge you give to us through all the indigenous traditions of the world. Help us to honor the gifts that each tradition offers.
Let the people say,
We seek to take the path of love.
We give thanks for the East, for the sun that rises to begin each new day. We give thanks for new life, for youth. We give thanks for new learning and new experiences.
We
seek to take the path of love.
We give thanks for the South, for the growth of the summertime in our lives, for the teachings to be kind to ourselves and others. Help us who are elders love and respect our children and youth. Help us to care for our elders and those who cannot care for themselves. We seek to take the path of love.
We give thanks for the West, for the understanding of how to care for the earth. Creator, help us to use this understanding to bring joy and new life to the world.
We seek to take the path of love.
We give thanks for the North. Help us to receive gifts of wisdom and new perspectives from all people. Help us to grow our roots of compassion deeper as we journey.
Together,
we will take the path of love for ourselves, for each other, and for all creation. Hello, I am Joe Del Sol, the worship associate for today's service. My pronouns are he, him. I am a 46-year-old white male with dark brown hair and beard. I am wearing a green polo shirt and dark blue pants. As members of our Elevate Our Vision campaign team, Regina, Kathy, Joe, Don, Kathleen, Mary, kindled a chalice. Please share in the chat from where you are lighting your chalice. Please rise in body and or in spirit to share the chalice lighting words. We kindle the chalice in a spirit of gratitude. Gratitude for all the gifts of creation, the air, the water, the land, the change of seasons as we move into fall. We gather seeking wisdom to help us live a generous and compassionate life. We gather seeking wisdom to help us live together with respect and humility. We gather seeking hearts and minds, learning from the past, live in the present, and envision a new future.
The video we are about to watch was created by Dr. Lila June Johnston, known by her stage name, Lila June. She is an Indigenous musician, scholar, and community organizer of the Dayna Navajo tribe and the Tetahasi Cheyenne tribe in European lineage. Her messages focus on Indigenous rights, supporting our youth, traditional land stewardship practices, and healing intergenerational and intercultural trauma.
Indigenous people, shine your light, we are equal. I remember the days when our prayers were illegal. I remember the days when being Indian was lethal. Yeah, we had a rough past, but get ready for the sequel. Get ready for the glorious comeback of our people. Oh yeah, rise up, all you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I can feel it in my heart, can you feel it in your blood? I can hear the seventh fire calling us to wake up, wake up. All nations rise, rise up, cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, cause now's the time. All nations rise, rise up, cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, cause now's the time. With forgiveness as my bow and my prayers as my arrows, pull them back and let go. I watch them fly like sparrows, have hope. Yeah, have hope. With compassion as my shield and faith down to my marrow, I will walk the pollen path even when it gets narrow. Yeah, yeah, I resurrect. Yes, you can bet that we seen the single mama raising children on the res. We seen domestic violence tear apart what we have left. We seen the alcohol take it all and leave us dead. We seen the children take their lives when they can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. Can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. No, we can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. No, we can't take the dread anymore. It's a war, but we've seen it all before. And now we know we can change it, cause that's why we were born. We know we are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the ones Grandma has been praying for. So rise up, all you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I can feel it in my heart, can you feel it in your blood? I can hear the seventh fire calling us to wake up, wake up. Pueblo hermoso, levántense, es nuestro tiempo. No tienes que esconderte más, ahora es nuestro tiempo. Mujer indígena, Tú eres tan sagrada, traigas medicina de tu suelo todavía. A pesar del abuso de tu cuerpo y tu tierra, respetamos tus ancestros y la suya cultura. Hombre indígena, tú eres honorable y yo veo la fuerza que todavía sobrevive. A pesar del abuso de tu raza venerable, yo respeto tus ritos, tus danzas, tus padres. Somos guerreros del amor y guerreros de la paz, sí, no vamos a escondernos más. Somos guerreros del amor y guerreros de la paz, sí, no vamos a escondernos más.
They say that history is written by the victors. But how can there be a victor when the war isn't over? The battle has only just begun, and Creator is sending his very best warriors. And this time, it isn't Indians versus cowboys. No, this time, it is all the beautiful races of humanity together on the same side, and we are fighting to replace our fear with love. And this time bullets, arrows, and cannonballs won't save us. The only weapons that are useful in this battle are the weapons of truth, faith, and compassion.
And now I invite Regina Dull up to offer an affirmation as we continue our progress on our Elevate Our Vision campaign.
My name is Regina Dahl, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a tall, white, middle-aged female. Today, I'm wearing a black sweater, purple necklace, purple pants, and black shoes. Living just a few blocks from Cedar Lane, it's been really thrilling and exciting to see the progress of these renovations from the original capital campaign. And I feel inspired and hopeful seeing our congregation engaged and growing both locally and globally. Today, we officially launch the Elevate Our Vision mini capital campaign to raise $950,000 to finish this project. The work of our spiritual community is needed in so many ways, and I'm proud to pick up this charge once again with a trained group of passionate, talented volunteers and advisors. What we do in this community matters. Stewarding this building matters. And let me share a little bit of my why. We joined in 2009, just after my oldest child was born, and I didn't expect to get emotional. Okay. I remember relying on being able to come here to the building and hand over that kid for that 45 minutes of spiritual connection. This building is a place for respite. Soon it was time to join RE, and we sat in the hall downstairs, and we had giant pieces of cardboard larger than my kid. We made an owl for the manger, and then a few years later, we made a pink pig. And we giggled while we painted, and then we carried it up through the middle and set our offerings on stage. This building is a place for joy. A few years ago, I heard an amazing harmonica player. I could have never imagined someone with such talent on a harmonica. He had a whole suitcase full. It was amazing. We clapped and we sang, and we came back for more. Quartets, bluegrass, bells, and pianos. This place is a building for music. When my family faced a time of transition and challenge, we sought support from counselors and social workers and community groups. I read books and completed intake processes. The address for the support group, 9601 Cedar Lane. I was like, well, that's convenient. This building is a place for support and love. Along the way, I've made many friends and acquaintances here. We've played games and we've gone to meetings. Oh, so many meetings. I've received advice and wisdom for a lifetime. But some of those friends have completed their life journeys, and we've come together here to celebrate them, and I'm grateful for that. This building is a place for sorrow and remembrance. In many ways, the world around us has changed and progressed since we kicked off the Building Our New Vision over 6 years ago. Yet, I feel the need for this community both physically and virtually as much as before. Our congregation stands tall in this community, and we continue to grow our leadership and raise our voice for our liberal religious values, and finishing our renovations debt-free with better seats for our tired bottoms, with better spaces for our children and the teachers, and better sound for our listeners and the AV techs who have to move it around, matters. It will bring respite and joy and music and love. We've had to focus on our financial strength of this community over the years, and I'm asking you to renew this focus today. Talk and think about your why. Consider a gift that supports the spirit for our children and our children's children. It has been almost a generation since we did a project of this size. This is our generation's chance. Let's make it sing. We launched today with 25 generous leadership donations of several new and renewing donors, and to date we've raised already $390,000 towards our $950,000 goal. It's 40%. The remaining $560,000 is going to take all of us, and every gift from $500 to $25,000 over the 2-year pledge period matters. I'd like to take a minute to remember and acknowledge the many gracious souls who have contributed to this monumental project that are not able to see it to its success. They believed in our ability to see it through, and we will finish strong for them and for all those who will utilize these resources to go forth and shine their light on the world. Whether you're giving for the first time or giving again, thank you. And please do join us for lunch and the party and the celebration to kick this off after. Let's do this together. Thank you.
Please rise in body and earth spirit to sing For the Earth Forever Turning. Words are in the hymnal and on
For the earth forever turning,
There are a few things to lift up this morning. As we heard from Regina, thank you for your powerful affirmation, Regina. I just loved how you framed this place, a place of joy, a place of hope, a place of caring, a place of remembrance, a place of music, a place of community, a place of service. As we gather to celebrate and honor this place with our Elevate Our Vision reception after service, we do need some help to get us there with setting up with some chairs and tables after the service, so appreciate your support in creating the welcome table for us to all be able to eat food and eat cake and rejoice. Yes, eat cake, that's important. This coming Saturday, October 14th at 2 p.m., we will have a celebration of life service for our beloved longtime member, Frances Dearman. All are invited to come together to celebrate her life and her legacy of love and service. And the Immigrant Justice Ministry team is seeking everyone's feedback on what they would like to see Cedar Lane as a congregation in living into our commitment to radical hospitality, in support of unmet critical needs of immigrants in our area, and what commitments each of us are willing to make. And to help determine the work of the Immigrant Justice Ministry team, they're inviting us to fill out a survey by October 11th. The link to the survey is being included in the chat, and it's also available in the e-news. Thank you for taking time to fill out the survey. And following that, next Sunday, October 15th, the ministry team is organizing a luncheon, another luncheon. We are a food-based religion, start to finish. And a meeting in the Chalice House at noon to be able to discuss the results of the survey as well as do some planning about how to carry the work forward. So we hope to see many of you there. Also, we continue exploration of our monthly themes, the Soul Matter themes, through poetry. And these sessions monthly will be starting October 18th at 7 p.m. in the Chalice House and will be led by Dan Coyle and Reverend Dayna Edwards. They will be facilitating these conversations. It's a wonderful way to bring poetry to the conversations and our reflections about these spiritual themes. So we hope you will sign up. The registration, again, the link is in the chat and also in our e-news. Let us now move into the space of naming and sharing our joys and sorrows of this community and beyond.
Let us center ourselves and enter into this moment, calling upon all the sources of love that are within, among, and around us. We lift up those in our community who are living through significant passages, the small and extraordinary milestones of life. We pause to be present to our spiritual companions and to the concerns of our own hearts. Within our Cedar Lane community, we celebrate with Sharmi Mehta, who is celebrating her 90th birthday on October 10th. Happy birthday, Sharmi. We hold in our hearts Perry and Diane Seifert, who are mourning the loss of Perry's sister, Linda Seifert Reynolds, who died Wednesday, September 27th in hospice near her Moncton, Vermont home, surrounded by her son Will, her brother Perry, a multitude of lifelong friends, and her beloved church choir serenading her. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by war, violence, and calamities in our nation and in our world. We are deeply saddened by the rising destruction and lives lost in Gaza and Israel. At least 250 Palestinians and more than 200 Israelis have died. Thousands more have been injured. There are reports of plans to escalate military action. We mourn with those who have lost loved ones and all who are suffering. We pray for an end to this violence and for a just and lasting peace. We hold in our hearts the students, faculty, staff, and families of Bowie State University and Morgan State University as they feel the impact of their homecoming weekends impacted by gun violence this weekend. May these friends of ours, our companions in the world, and all the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts be held in the embrace of prayer and silence.
Creator, known by many names, we enter into this moment filled with the love of this congregation. We enter into this moment lifted with celebrations of birthdays and other events that have not been named. And we enter into this moment with the sadness of losses that we hold in our hearts and in our bodies as the life cycle continues. We think of the words of Dr. Lila June Johnston that we just heard and remind ourselves that we are warriors of love, that we do need to answer the prayers of our ancestors. We ask ourselves, where do we feel the call of love, and what are the answers that we are seeking? We ask ourselves if we can join in, if we can seek to replace hatred and bigotry and all of the isms that we carry with love. We ask ourselves if we are in a place where radical inclusion means the inclusion of things that we may not understand. We ask ourselves, who are we as a liberal religion? Who do we seek to be? How will we afflict ourselves in our comfortable congregation to open ourselves to be better, to allow ourselves to let love enter, to serve our community, to serve the world, and to serve our congregation, to be the people that our ancestors asked us to be, to love the hell out of the world as a universalist wanted us to be, to join together as the Unitarians asked us to be, to remember that we bring many different traditions and to honor those traditions and to see them and learn from them and to encourage growth in each of us. We ask ourselves to not continue to see the vessel as half empty, but to remember that it is full of diversity, and in that diversity, there is the answer. We pray this, meditate on this, reflect on this, in the name of the Most High. And in this moment, we enter into the silence. We accept that we are beings full of love, flawed, imperfect, and loving. You're invited to rise in body and spirit and speak the names of the loved ones that you're holding in remembrance, or share their names in the chat. Let this community hold us all. Let it hold our names and our memories. May it be so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Join us in singing hymn number 1001, Breaths. You'll see it on the screen or in the hymnal. The teal hymnal.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Batcher. I'm the social justice coordinator. I use he or they pronouns. I'm a 42-year-old white person wearing a orange shirt. So every Sunday, we give and receive an offering to support the mission and ministry of our congregation and a community organization in alignment with our Unitarian Universalist values. Our offering reminds us that our congregation belongs to us, to each of us, as well as to the whole of us. It is an extension of our gratitude for our spiritual home, where we are invited to be who we are, as we are, and to live lives of joy, hope, integrity, and service. Today, on this Indigenous People's Day, we share the plate with Through Piscataway Eyes, a nonprofit serving the Piscataway Conoy tribe whose ancestral lands cover much of present-day Maryland, Northern Virginia, D.C., and West Virginia. Today, the Piscataway have no land of their own. Tribe members must pay land taxes on the stolen land of their ancestors. At every Sunday service, we mention the Piscataway in our land acknowledgement. And this Sunday, I want to invite us into a spirit of going beyond land acknowledgement. I want to invite us into a spirit of reparations. I want to invite us to consider that we have benefited from harm to others, that we owe something to those who were harmed, and that reparations are an expression of our values, of our own spiritual calling. The tribe asks for more than land acknowledgement. They want us to give back. Through Piscataway Eyes addresses insecurities in healthcare, education, food, land access, and more for tribe members. Donations today are one way to support the tribe whose lands we occupy. Whatever you can give, thank you very deeply.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ooh.
On the dusty earth drum beats the falling rain. Now a whispered murmur, now a louder strain. Slender silvery drumsticks on an ancient drum beats the mellow music, bidding life to come. Chords of life awakened, notes of greeting spring, rise and fall triumphant over everything.
Ancient Mother,
Slender
I hear you
silvery
calling.
drumsticks beat the long tattoo.
Ancient Mother,
God the great
I hear your
music life anew. Slender silvery drumsticks beat the long tattooed strings. God the great musician, calling life on slender silvery drumsticks beat the long tattooed strings. God the great musician, calling life on calling life anew.
Calling life anew.
Thank you, Jenny Lynn, Rachel, Travis, and Kevin for those beautiful earth chants. My colleague, the Reverend Paige Getty, talks about what we do as a religious community, as a Unitarian, Universalist religious community. And she reminds us that what we gather to do is learn to be faithful. Not necessarily cultivate faith, though that is important, but more importantly, to learn to be faithful. I love that description. Faithful to our values and our convictions, faithful to our covenanted commitments, learning how to be faithful in our world, faithful to one another and to this community that we are a part of, faithful to the truth, to the free and responsible search for truth, the truth of what has shaped the world, faithful to the values of love and justice and compassion. And as Unitarian Universalists, we are ones who are committed to living faithfully. We are compelled to remember, remember, with humility and honesty, to look back, to be willing to see and hold and accept the greater truths of our history, our heritage, to honor both the beauty and to lament its brutality. And we are compelled to reimagine a better future. It's a lot to hold and to be. That is why it is not easy to be a Unitarian Universalist. Now, faithfulness also involves learning to hold our spiritual discomfort together. Knowing that we will sometimes feel that holy discomfort rising from within. And we have each other as a community to hold each other in that circle of caring and love. That we together can support each other to kind of lean into it, lean into our discomfort sometimes, and to be able to breathe through any defensiveness that might arise. and to keep our hearts and our minds open, and to be able to lean in together. I offer these as a preamble to my reflection this morning, as a way to kind of both remind ourselves that we are in this together, and that together we can journey forward, or fall forward and be held. Indigenous Peoples Day honors the past, the present, and the future of Native peoples throughout the continental United States. It's a holiday that recognizes the legacy and impact of colonialism on Native communities. And it also celebrates the cultures, the contributions, and resilience of Native peoples. It's now celebrated on the second Monday in October, and this year that's tomorrow, October 9th. Now, the movement to replace Columbus Day has been led by Native people ever since President Roosevelt made it a federal holiday in 1937. But especially in 1977, when Indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere went to the Palais des Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. And one of the main demands that they made in what became the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007 was that October 12th be reconsidered and named the International Day of Solidarity and Mourning with the Indigenous Peoples of the America, instead of being observed as Columbus Day to mark the date, October 12th, 1492, when Christopher Columbus arrived in the Americas. Now, the movement gained momentum in 1992, the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival, with Berkeley, California becoming the first city to make the change from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Since then, many cities and states have replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. 17 states and Washington, D.C., including Columbus, Ohio, the largest U.S. city named after Columbus that now observes Indigenous Peoples Day, and Montgomery County, and excluding Maryland. That's right, Maryland does not observe Indigenous Peoples Day, and this is because the state legislature has yet to adopt a bill that would replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. And this legislation has been introduced in the Maryland General Assembly 3 times, but has never progressed further than the first referral committee. Something to ponder. Now, in 2021, President Biden issued the first ever presidential proclamation of Indigenous Peoples Day to honor, and I quote, our diverse history and the indigenous peoples who contribute to shaping this nation. In it, he wrote that indigenous peoples feed the soul of our nation. And the president also asked all Americans to observe this important day. So why? And what is some of the history and background behind this? Well, one of the things that Indigenous Peoples Day does is debunk the myth of Christopher Columbus as a beneficent discoverer and honors the critical role of Indigenous people in protecting the land and planet. Columbus, as you all know, arrived in the Bahamas 531 years ago. and unleashed a brutal genocide that killed tens of millions of native people across the hemisphere. Of course, not what we learned in our school textbooks, including in India. We learned in history in 7th grade that Columbus discovered America because he was directionally challenged and came here instead of coming to India. That's right, that's one way to look at it, and that's how we were looking at it. And we're actually, I still remember, I think it was our history teacher who talked about, wow, wonder what he would have done if he had showed up in India. Yeah. So, Native people have long criticized the inaccuracies and harmful narratives of Columbus's legacy that credited him with his discovery of the Americas when indigenous people were there first. As Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz writes in her book, All the Real Indians Died Off and 20 Other Myths About Native Americans, the claim that Columbus discovered America is the original prevarication that laid the foundation for a national mythology at whose center is the deliberate discursive erasure of indigenous peoples. Not only could Columbus not have discovered a country that didn't yet exist or play any actual role in its creation, but he also utterly failed to comprehend, let alone respect, the people he stumbled upon in the mistaken belief that he had arrived in the East Indies. She continues, Columbus wasn't the first European to sail to the Americas anyway, and he never even set foot on the continent we know today as North America during any of his 4 journeys. He did, however, set into motion a tidal wave of destruction, so cataclysmic that many scholars believe it is unparalleled in recorded history. He is widely credited with initiating the transatlantic slave trade and catalyzing a genocide from which Native people are still recovering. The Columbus discovery story can be thought of as the greatest piece of propaganda of the last 5 centuries. The Columbus myth was legally reinforced through the doctrine of discovery, a 1452 papal decree issued to the Portuguese king Alfonso V. It is a legal principle based on the underlying philosophy that the European discovery of the Americas confers a superior form of title to land. The doctrine is a tenet of international law that traces its origins to the Crusades between the 11th and the 13th centuries. And 50 years later, by the time of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas, the tradition of discovery and conquest was fully embraced. And upon Columbus's return to Europe, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel, the monarchs of Spain, requested Pope Alexander VI to reiterate the previous decree and grant Spain the right to conquer lands which Columbus had already found, as well as any land which Spain might discover in the future. And Pope Alexander added his desire for the discovered people to be subjugated and brought to the faith itself. End of quote. And centuries later, U.S. jurists, including Chief Justice John Marshall, would codify it into U.S. law with a series of Supreme Court cases commonly known as the Marshall Trilogy. In an 1823 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Marshall argued that the superior genius of Europe claimed an ascendancy over the indigenous peoples, that the bestowal of civilization and Christianity were ample compensations to the inhabitants, and that indigenous people had only rights of occupancy, not ownership, over lands they had long lived on. These cases gave way to the removal era of U.S. federal policy during President Andrew Jackson, known more commonly as the Trail of Tears, the ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of over 70,000 members of the Cherokee Muskogee Creek, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw nations from their ancestral homelands in the southeastern United States to newly designated Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River. The doctrine of discovery is, to this day, one of the bedrock principles by which the U.S. administers its relationship with indigenous peoples. And as recently as 2005, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg cited the 1823 decision in an opinion that stopped the Oneida people from regaining lands in modern-day New York. In March 2023, the Vatican formally repudiated the doctrine of discovery, saying that it did not adequately reflect the equal dignity and rights of indigenous peoples, and formally apologized. But over the years, indigenous activists and allies have continued to demand justice. Although the Middle Passage and the racist enslavement of African people is sometimes referred to as the original sin of our country, the original sin, I submit, was the displacement, enslavement, and slaughter of the indigenous peoples of this land. In the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., our nation, he wrote in the 1960s, was born in genocide. We are perhaps the only nation which tried as a matter of national policy to wipe out its indigenous population. Moreover, we elevated the tragic experience into a noble crusade. I think he was referring to the doctrine of discovery. Now, genocide is a very strong word, but in this case, it is an accurate one, because today in the United States, there are more than 500 federally recognized indigenous nations comprising nearly 3 million people, descendants of the more than 15 million native people who once inhabited this land. And of the approximately 1,904 million acres of the continental United States, in 1881, Indian land holdings in the U.S. had plummeted to 156 million acres. By 1934, only about 50 million acres remained, an area the size of Idaho and Washington. And during World War II, the government took 500,000 more acres for military use, and by 1955, the indigenous land base had shrunk to just 2.3% of its original size. Now, what most indigenous activists call for is not monetary reparations, but instead, they're calling for the restoration, restitution, or repatriation of lands acquired by the United States outside of valid treaties. Because there is more to reparations than just stripping the land that was taken by white colonists and handing it back to the remaining descendants of the First Nations. So reparations are more than a financial transaction. They're about doing the work of repair, which is actually a biblical concept. The community of Israel is recognized the need to have a periodic time of repairing the social fabric. And one form of reparations was the Jubilee year, as it's outlined in the book of Leviticus, when prisoners were freed and debts forgiven. Another was the order to compensate Hebrew slaves when they were released in Deuteronomy. They were not to be sent away empty-handed. So reparations provides actually a spiritual framework to discuss what it means to offer restitution, reclamation, reconciliation, and the right of return. And in this context, the right of return for Palestinian people. See, to digress for a moment, the war that is unfolding in Israel is heartbreaking. We must decry the violence of an attack by Hamas on civilians. We must also decry the ongoing violence of occupation. You cannot just lift up one and completely ignore the other. So when we say we are on the side of love, it means that we are praying for our Jewish siblings in the region and here in the States, and we are praying for our Palestinian siblings here and in the region. We are praying for an end to violence, for the end of occupation, and for a shared homeland for all people. Professor Charles Henry, in his 2007 book, Long Overdue, The Politics of Racial Reparations, writes that reparations is intimately linked to restorative justice. He talks about the need to recognize and acknowledge a wrong done, to listen to voices expressing pain, anger, and suffering, to provide some sort of redress, either restitution or atonement, and finally to find a sense of closure, a mutual kind of reconciliation that all parties can feel, and hopefully the prevention of any future injustice. Ultimately, Dr. Henry says, reparations can lead to rebuilding of community in such a way that the desire for vengeance is diminished, and fear can be replaced by hope for a more just and loving community, one where people know they belong. So I think repair, the work of repair, involves holding the fear and sometimes the guilt we all have around acknowledging our culpability in the historical and continued oppression of Indigenous peoples. The fear of what we sometimes unwittingly participate in. The fear that we will have to give up something to let go of our mythic story. The fear that if we were to be really just, that we would somehow lose our status, our respect, our comfort, our privilege. And then there is accepting responsibility for what we wrought. There is listening to the pain and trauma caused by centuries of systemic dehumanizing and attempts at cultural and physical annihilation. Then there is making room for others' stories, others' truths, others' sacredness that we are not aware of, but still be able to make space to listen. Then there is asking for forgiveness without expecting anything in return, again and again and again. There is the creation of new systems that honor different ways of being together in covenanted community on this earth. Because if we are to live in harmony and balance with the earth and all our relations, kind of live into our seventh principle, the interconnected web of all existence, all of it It means we need to make amends where we can, begin again in greater understanding when we can, and give proper place and agency to all our relations. So, friends, it matters that we see Indigenous people. It matters that we call them by their own names. It matters that we validate their experience of colonization and that we work to make amends. We're not responsible for colonization, but we are beneficiaries of that process, all of us. And we are responsible for what we do now. Now that we have begun to comprehend and understand the devastating long-term consequences of that heritage. So today and going forward, let us reflect on the ongoing journey of remembrance and reparation, truth and reconciliation, and commit ourselves to building meaningful relationships based on respect, understanding, and collaboration that go beyond just land acknowledgement, but a deeper engagement and relationship building. And may we do this work joyfully and respectfully. Amen. Amen. Let us now rise in body and or in spirit to sing Building a New Way.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Spread any jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feel every need. We can feel every need. We can feed our every need. Solid love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this shall we die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. Come on now, come on. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Our benediction today is from the words of the Indigenous poet and activist Joy Harjo. Bless this land from the top of its head to the bottom of its feet.
From the Arctic old white head to the brown feet of tropical
Bless the eyes of this land, for they witness cruelty and kindness in this land.
From sunrise light upright to falling down on your knees night.
Bless the ears of this land, for they hear cries of heartbreak and shouts of celebration in this land.
Once we heard no gunshot on these lands. The trees and stones can be heard singing.
Bless the mouth, lips, and speech of this land, for the land is a speaker, a singer, a keeper of all that happens here on this land.
Luminous forests, oceans, and rock cliff sold for the trash glut of gold, uranium, or oil bust, rush yet there are no new stories to be made, little ones coming up over the horizon.
Bless the heart of this land, on its knees planting food beneath the eternal circle of breathing, swimming, and walking this land.
The heart is a poetry maker. There is one heart, said the poetry maker, one body, and all poems make one poem, and we do not use words to make war on this land.
Bless the destruction of this land, for new shoots will rise up from fire, floods, earthquakes, and fierce winds to make new this land.
Bless the creation of new land, for out of chaos we will be compelled to remember to bless the land.
We are land on turtle's back. When the weight of greed overturns us, who will recall the upright song of this land? The smallest one remembered, the most humble one, the one whose voice you'd have to lean in 1,000 years to hear. We will begin there.
Bless us, these lands, said the rememberer. These lands aren't our lands. These lands aren't your lands. We are this land.
And the blessing began a graceful moving through the grasses of time, from the beginning to the circling around place of time, always moving, always. Bless this land. Go in peace, go making peace, living gently on this land, loving mightily, and bowing to the mystery. Please be seated for the postlude.